Hey there, listeners, and thank you for joining us on the CATCast, Chatham Area Transit's podcast, where we focus on everything local transit and Chatham County. Today, we join your host, Faye DiMassimo, CAT's Executive Director and CEO, on an insightful conversation that explores key aspects of making our community more accessible and inclusive. Today's distinguished guest is Edward Grant, the Assistant Director of the Office of Special Events, Film and Tourism for the City of Savannah. Together, they'll be diving into vital topics of accessibility, sustainability, and the power of collaboration.
Hi, this is Faye DiMassimo at Chatham Area Transit, and we are glad to welcome you back for this month's CATCast. We are so excited to have Edward Grant, who is the Assistant Director of the City of Savannah's Special Events, Film and Tourism Group, with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We are excited to have you here. We've done a number of CATcasts that are around all the things that make Savannah so special, of which you get to see all the facets of that every day. And we were especially noted that you did a sociable city assessment for Savannah and our area. Talk a little bit about that for us, and talk a little bit about what were some of those top line findings, recommendations, opportunities for us.
Oh, absolutely. And again, thank you for having me. So we did a sociable city assessment with the Responsible Hospitality Group. They're pretty much the leaders in coming into cities and assessing their nighttime economy and what happens in the city when City Hall closes their doors at 5 o'clock. And some of the things that they found in our city were there's some great opportunities, and there were also some challenges. And some of those challenges involve transportation in the evening, getting people to and from work that are working third shift, getting people to and from nighttime establishments that really help our economy thrive and help the city embrace its culture and its identity. And we took those from the report, and we're really going to start working on some things to kind of help people get to these places safer and help them be able to move around without necessarily using cars all the time. Mm-hmm. I actually found out I came here today, and it's kind of hard to find parking. So I was like, man, I should have just taken the bus to the bus station.
You should have. You should have.
But I had to park a little bit away and walk. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, is how to move people around better and safer and easier for folks.
Well, I'm really glad that you focused in on, and it's something that we are keenly aware of right now, and we'll talk a little bit about one of our new strategies to do that here in a moment. But I think a lot of times when people think about a sociable city and they think about the travel and tourism industry, they think about the people who are coming here. We like to think as much or more about the people who are here, who are providing all the services that make that hospitality industry such an important part of our vibrant economy here. And so I'm glad that you focused in on that, especially that nighttime need. Is focused around people who are working many of those jobs that need shifts later in the evening, or need that kind of safe, efficient, and effective travel later in the evening in order to be able to make that economy run and to give them jobs.
I think that's one thing to put out with the study, is it's really focused on those that live here in Savannah. Mm-hmm. Savannah markets itself. Savannah really is a destination city for folks. We know that. We knew that coming into this. So our focus was really those folks that live here now, right? How can everyone that's working in this industry, how do we get them around? How do we move them from place to place safely? And how do we really focus on the quality of life of our residents that are here now? Not just in the downtown, but anywhere in the city that are moving about to events, even during the day and on weekends. And how do we get them to those places?
So there's two things that I want to be sure and mention related to all that I think are noteworthy, that I know you were recently a part of a presentation that we gave on some of these things that I'm not sure all of our community knows about yet, but we're certainly working to that end. One, CAT completed its first master transit plan recently, and so the notion of how we move folks efficiently, effectively, safely, reliably, how the best quality of service, the best customer service experience, how do we do that for the next 10 years and beyond? And that master transit plan, which is available on our website, is something that really outlines what our goals are, what our aspirations are, what our specific projects are, and so forth, to do exactly that. And I think that underlying part of transportation infrastructure is a critical piece of all of that. And we are proud to be prepared and to have our business strategy in place of how we're going to accomplish that. But what was, I think, really exciting is CAT was the beneficiary of a SMART grant. So a brand new grant program that came out about a year or so ago. And we were able to compete successfully for it. We're one of a fairly small number against all those who applied that were awarded. And our first planning phase of the project, which is going on between now and what will be a March implementation and March rollout, has really been well received, not only in the community, but it is being well received by those that have an eye on us for the future funding that will enable a much larger scale implementation. Microtransit is the Uber Lyft of transit. It will operate in the same fashion in that there will be an app, and you will ask the app to take you to the places you need and want to go from point A to point B within a zone, or from point A to a fixed route that can take you to a much longer trip if that is your need. But it offers the convenience and the access and all those kinds of things that are absolutely critical to enable our economy and to enable quality of life, especially for our residents and our workers and so forth, but also for those who are visiting us. So we're excited about that going live in its first phase, its piloting phase in March, and we're looking forward to what we hope will be a very successful next phase of funding to bring that broader scale implementation. Microtransit, though, we really are looking at that as it's sort of the secret sauce now. It's the tool in the toolkit that becomes that place people are used to. Fixed route transit are the big buses that roll along the major corridors. Paratransit is the service that is scheduled service. It's on demand, but you schedule it in advance in order, if you are a senior or differently able, to make an essential trip. And this is sort of the marriage between those two. It offers something a little different. It offers on-demand, customized service. You don't have to schedule it in advance. It's not necessarily, it's ADA accessible, but not, there's many of our paratransit users that are ambulatory, and they would be able to take this service just as easily and well, and it offers more flexibility. So we're really excited, but I think we especially think that in your market and in the kinds of things that came out of your sociability assessment, that there's a unique place that this can occupy. You might want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Leadership Savannah and that our tour of CAT that we took this year with our 2023 class, the best class yet, by the way. We always need to say that. But so I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. And yes, the SMART grant was one of the things that you talked to us about, and I myself was so excited about that because I use Uber and Lyft, obviously, and I like to go out in downtown and on the weekends and everything. And with this ability, living where I live in out by the airport in Savannah, this would give you the opportunity really to take a fixed route, like you said, down into an area and then get that micro transit out to wherever you want to go, where the fixed route doesn't necessarily go. Mm-hmm. So that's really something that I was excited about. I'm originally from Boston, so I grew up like using the transit and using bikes and using the train and the T and going everywhere on public transportation. And I think this new wave into the future, this ability to have this on-demand service, especially for events where we need accessibility, where we need folks who may be, like you said, ambulatory, but may need a little bit more assistance getting somewhere. This is really going to give us a step into a direction that we see all over the country being a focal point, which is accessible events and accessible festivals, accessible work-life balance, and again, for our residents here and for our workers and for our folks coming in, even with the new Hyundai mega plant, these are going to give us the abilities to move people around safely and to get them to the places that they want to go. So we're really excited about it. I hope it keeps going and keeps on. And
it will.
I'm glad you said it's coming out from March, because I'm thinking, okay, St. Patrick's Day, we're going to be able to have people to move around, and that's really exciting for us in my office, permitting special events, right? Moving people to and from the parade. That's always a big thing for us.
I think the other thing to remember for us too is financial strategies are everything. Local funding is something that we've really got to further develop in order to make all these kinds of things available. And we talk about this economy, the sociable city economy. And when those visitors come to town, they're spending their sales tax dollars. And when we get that sales tax, it is collected and goes back into our community through the various SPLOST programs that help make sure that all those needs are being met too. So there's the travel and tourism economy is a lifeline, I think, in many respects.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And that goes hand in hand with the live venue economy and the entertainment economy. A lot of times people don't realize, but that economy, that live music, live venue, bar, nightclub, hotel, restaurant economy is usually in the top 10 of our gross domestic product. So and it's a $1 billion industry, and something that when folks in these large companies want to come to a place and they want to live there and they want to raise a family there, like here in Savannah, they look for things like that, but they want to know how they can get to these places, and it's not always in a car, right?
So I know that we've talked about, and we both agree, that our nightlife and our evening events are integral to our community's social fabric. And to prosperity and quality of life and all those things. How can we think about the ways that we can jointly promote and support that economy and address concerns like traffic congestion, safety, options for those workers that are on nighttime hours and so forth?
Sure. I think it's all about establishing communication. One thing that we found in the study in talking to our nightlife venues is that there's really opportunity out there for communication between local government, private business, the nightlife venues, nonprofits. Everybody wants to talk to one another, and we all have those common goals, right? We all want to be able to move people safely. We all want a safer environment. We all want lighting. We all want better transportation. So I think one of the things for sustaining that vibrant economy is really working together and establishing those partnerships, starting with meetings and talking with each other and kind of seeing where each other stands. It was maybe not surprising to us that a lot of the things that residents want are the same things that venue owners want. And, we all want a clean city. We all live here. We all want to be able to move around here. So I'd say one of the key things is opening that line of communication and really keeping it open and talking with each other.
Let's keep talking about that. I mean, so let's think about what are those specific ways that we can improve communication. We might not be able to solve it for here today, but maybe there's some, I know that we all have lots of groups and organizations that we participate in and belong to that offer those kinds of venues. And are there some of those kinds of things you think that we might could leverage differently or leverage better to enhance that communication? Is there anything there in particular you can think of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we would encourage the folks in these industries to really start taking a look at the different things that the city and CAT has to offer, right? So we have organizations like the Downtown Business Association and the Tourism Leadership Council and even Leadership Savannah and things like that. And I think one thing that folks may not understand is that there are resources out there and there are connection events out there where they can really get to know each other and build those relationships. A lot of times we get comfortable in our own little area and we don't really get out there to talk to one another. And I think that's when we start finding we have common goals. And of course it goes on to telling our story, right? A lot of times that people are doing, there's some really good things happening out there. And even in nightlife venues themselves, they're doing really good things already. But it's all about telling our story and getting that story out there and letting the other folks that live in and around us know what we're doing.
Well, partnerships are everything. And it's interesting that you said what you said, because I got so much feedback from your Leadership Savannah class from different people, sort of unsolicited, and certainly it appeared to be kind of uncoordinated, that it was interesting that you just got this feedback that I had no idea that CAT had all those things going on. I didn't know what microtransit even was. I had never heard that CAT was doing. And it was interesting to me that just from a visit from the Leadership Savannah class, the breach that we ended up having with it, deepening the understanding of what all CAT has going on in the community and what all CAT can be. I think that was a great service for us and for everyone in that class.
Oh, absolutely. I found out a lot of things, and it was always interesting. I think I remember one study that you guys did before on when you look at routes like fixed routes, and you have to make that determination of do we work with a route that gets more buses out to one area at good time intervals, or do we work at spreading the routes out so we can better access the whole community? And those are hard decisions to make.
They are.
And I don't think folks really understand the extent of things that you all do in this organization to get that transportation out to everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. So accessibility is, you brought this up, we talked about those that are differently abled and seniors and so forth, which is both our residents but it's also our visitors, is a vital aspect of our community's well-being. How can we work together to improve accessibility for individuals with diverse needs, such as those with disabilities or those who rely on public transportation as their primary mode of transportation? What are some things that you can see and that your industry is doing to help diversify that offering?
That's a great question. So I think you're already on to part of it, right, with the on-demand transportation and in this new SMART grant and everything that you guys are working towards to move people, with accessibility issues. I think on our side, from an event standpoint, one thing that we like to do is really push on these events that are coming in, whether they're local, homegrown events, or maybe it's a nonprofit coming in from somewhere else, to really think about accessibility. We have a lot of events that will look at River Street, and when we start talking to them about the accessibility issues, whereas River Street is a fantastic venue, but for someone that may have some issues getting down onto River Street, it might not always be the best. So we start talking to events about thinking, what if someone has an accessibility issue? What if that accessibility issue is not just movement, but it's vision or hearing or anything like that? But really, in the sense of transportation, we are focused on movement. So start thinking about areas where this microtransit could drop folks off, right? And where it drops people off, do you have the specific ramps to get folks over sidewalks that aren't necessarily there on a normal day? But if you're doing like in a venue or a concert, you need those type of things.
Our cobblestone is charming until it's not, right?
It is very charming until it's not, and until someone, you have that slip of the ankle, and everybody loves to see it, but it's like we got to think about navigating around that.
Yeah, I think that, and I think the important part of that is Savannah is really remarkable at really thinking that we want this to be a city for everyone. We want this to be our Chatham County area to be an area for everyone. And we want everyone to be able to participate in all of the success that we have here and all of the opportunity and all of the richness of just what a remarkable community it is. And we want people to be able to see it and meet that where they are. So it's important for us. I think it's your point of view, and the point of view is about meeting everyone with all of their different abilities where they are, not having to be just accommodated, if so to speak.
Absolutely. And I hear a lot from just being downtown and a lot of my friends and stuff, and we always talk about the dot, right? And having the ability to jump on the dot and have that free transportation in and around the core of the city. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the study talked about, and this was really good timing, the study talked about expanding that dot service into our West Side communities and our other communities. And while we were talking about it you guys mentioned at that very time, you said, we're already doing this. We're moving, we are expanding it as we speak, and seeing it expand out, further than the park now, going south is amazing. And I think we talk about that a lot. I had the opportunity this past weekend to step out of the city side and volunteer with Pride for the weekend and kind of help them out. And one of the things that I kept hearing from those attending and even those that are volunteering, it's like you said, Savannah is one of the most welcoming cities, that it's very charming. The culture is here. Everybody feels happy when they come here. Everybody's so welcoming. And I thought that was great to hear. And folks did bring up mobility too. They were talking about getting the dot and going, parking further out and taking the dot to come downtown to the festival, which I thought was great.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So we're very proud that the dot shuttle is no longer a Forsyth Park and downtown infrastructure asset, although it is still that. But we do go over to West Side neighborhoods, Carver Village and Cloverdale, and we also go all the way up to Victory. And we know that there's a lot of activity on Victory, whether that's restaurants or places to gather and so forth, shop and all those kinds of things that we're also making accessible. One of the things that we found, which was an interesting fact about the dot shuttle, we did an onboard survey as a part of all of that planning work and found out that 56% of the ridership on the DOT shuttle is using it for work or shopping.
Amazing.
And the rest of it, which is a smaller portion, which I think everybody thinks of it differently, the 44 or so percent that's left over is using it for the travel, tourism, visitors, and all, which is great too. But it's interesting how much of it is obviously locals, people who are living here, people who are going to school here, people who are working here, and they're actually using the DOT shuttle to get to work and to get to their essential shopping trips.
And I think that is a big win, and it helps promote our economy, right? We're moving people around, and we're getting them to the places where necessarily if you had to find a parking space sometimes you're like, I don't know if I really want to go there, but then you get that transportation that gets you there and you're like, I'm going shopping now. Absolutely.
So another part of being in a place like Savannah, I think it naturally comes up being part of a coastal environment. I also think it's just something that we are a sustainability-driven community, and I think of historic preservation as a sustainability piece when you think of it that way. I mean, we have a proud foundation, certainly, of unlike almost any other city in America, we have prized and protected and restored so many of our historic assets, just in the most stringent of ways, which is a great thing. In addition to that, we're in a natural environment too, not just all the man-made and the architecture and all that is also rich and wonderful. And so CAT is very committed. Sustainability is a growing concern for all of us. And let's think about ways we can collaborate and work together to develop those sustainable solutions across both of our industries. We're doing things, obviously, we've made a big pledge. Our board is deeply committed to growing green. We've made a big pledge into the electric vehicle market. We have a very 15% or so of our total fleet is electric now. All of that SMART grant micro mobility is going to be electric. We have electric paratransit vehicles now. We are moving forward on all those kinds of things, as well as looking at other just sustainability practices. I think transit itself is a sustainability practice because you're taking more cars off the road and so forth. But talk a little bit about sustainability in your industry and where you see those partnerships with transit.
Sure, and I'm glad you brought that up about going green and electric vehicles, and that's really what we see the industry calling for these days is moving folks to and from events, but doing so in the safe way, but not just safe for public safety, but also safe to the environment, right? When we think about the amount of people that we can move through public transit rather than the number of cars on the street and the emissions that those cars are making, there's a drastic difference, right, in what that does to our environment, what that does to our local, like your natural infrastructure and our streets and our roads and everything. So it really helps us when we talk about this type of mobility, and especially going back to that SMART grant, having those on-demand electric vehicles. We think about that last mile of service, and I think you brought that up of like first fixed route to
first mile,
last mile service, and that in an event industry, in a tourism industry, even in film industry, where a lot of our film workers live local and they may be students at SCAD or other colleges here, having that ability to get a greener fleet, to get electric vehicles and be able to move these folks on electric vehicles rather than putting all these cars on the street really benefits not just our environment, but again, our historical culture and our commitment to our trees and our buildings and our environment and our air and everything else around here.
I'm really glad that you brought up the fact that as a matter of sustainability, transit takes cars off the road. So I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege here and make a pitch to all of my traffic engineer friends in town. We are a tool in your toolkit. If you haven't thought of it that way in the traffic engineering space as you're out there working to figure out how all of our roads and bridges and so forth can accommodate all the demand, transit should be a key tool in every traffic engineer's toolkit. So,
yeah, I think my colleagues Steve Henry and Michelle Strickland are probably really happy with you saying that right now. Steve always has the marbles and tubes conversation. You can only put so many marbles in a tube, and that's what your transit does, right? It removes those marbles from that tube and gives people better leverage to move throughout the city.
Well, we're fortunate because Steve and Michelle both are strong partners at the city, and we share vision, and we certainly share collaboration and partnership, and we're problem solvers together. So I appreciate you bringing them up, and we're going to give them a quick shout out here. So
yeah, great people.
Good.
great people.
So our last question, community well-being is at the heart of our missions. How can we ensure that our organizations share a common vision for the future of Savannah, where public events, transit services, and community initiatives are seamlessly integrated to create an exceptional quality of life for everyone who calls the city home and for all those who are coming to visit us?
I think this is probably my favorite question. So it goes back to telling our story, right? Both from the city side and CAT, and really working collaboratively with our stakeholders, which are our residents, our workers, our folks visiting, all of these groups, taking those feedback surveys that you all did with the step-on, step-off ridership and finding out what folks really want, right? And when we find out what folks really want and we know that direction to go in and we know we can all start paddling in the same direction, the things we can do are outstanding. And I think you're already on that route, right? When you talk about this micro-mobility and the SMART grants and everything we're doing to move into the future. So I'd say that collaboration and that communication with our stakeholders is going to be key. The other thing is finding balance, right? And we always talk about where is that balance between tourism and residents, where is it between events and use of the public space, and I think that's going to be something for us to focus on too. And in that balance, using this transportation method will really help out, because the more folks we can move on public transportation, the less cars that is, the less congestion it is, the less backup it is, and it makes it easier all around.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that answer. I do think it is really important that we all begin to think CAT belongs to everyone in this community. It belongs to our residents. It belongs to our seniors and those differently abled. It belongs to folks who never may ride transit, but who benefit from the fact that others ride transit. It belongs to our businesses. It belongs to our nonprofits. It belongs to our cities and our county. It really does belong to everyone. It's a unique asset in the community, and we think of ourselves that way. We think that we belong to everyone, and therefore meeting the community's needs and thinking about how we can be all those things in the best possible way, most efficient, most effective, safe, reliable, and supporting the vibrant economy in all of its facets is a key and important part to us. So I appreciate, I think you've got the vision spot on, and I appreciate you being here today to discuss it with us.
Absolutely. One of our tasks with Leadership Savannah, or our homework, as they say it was to find out how we could get to work from where we live. And I just happened to move out to the Savannah Highlands not too long ago, and I was surprised to see, I was like, oh, there's no CAT bus that comes out here. And then I found out there is, right?
Yes.
And when you, like, going back to incorporating that first mile, last mile service, I said, if there was a time where I needed to get to work on public transportation, it would be easy and available for me to do so. And that made me really happy, because I'm like, I've got an older truck and this could break down at some point, and I might need that. So I was really happy to see that. And thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, community, be on the watch, because CAT is on the move, and we are working hard to make sure that we look at all of Chatham County, all of Savannah, all of our surrounding cities. We're excited about our future in our Garden City expansion, the potential for our future in the Port Wentworth expansion, and certainly in microtransit and our SMART grant work. We want to thank Edward for being here with us today. What a remarkable conversation we've had. These are one of those partnerships are everything, and this is a key partnership for us and a key part of the economy in our area. So we want to thank you again for joining us this month. We look forward to seeing you next month, and next month's going to be a little special, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a teaser. So in December, Santa Claus is going to visit CAT, and we're going to have our Christmas, our holiday wish list ready to talk to him about. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in December.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening episode of the CATCast. We hope you found the discussion with Edward Grant and Faye DiMassimo as inspiring as we did. As we wrap up today's conversation, remember that positive change begins with each of us. Let's continue working together to create a more accessible, a more sustainable, and a more inclusive community. Stay tuned for more engaging episodes ahead on the CATCast. And of course, until next time, take care and catch a cat.